Hi, my name is Larry, and I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. And something very funny happened along my way to recovery. I was a school teacher, and I was in the middle of a relapse. And my school board, which had stuck beside me for the first 2 or 3 treatment centers, was quickly growing tired of my antics. And so they had placed me under mandatory drug testing. And using my superior intellect and knowledge, I had gone on the internet and devised a method to beat their drug testing. As any alcoholic worth his salt knows, you have to save the job, and after all, the children needed me, right? So I had devised a method where I knew if I was going to get drug tested, it would be first thing in the morning, and I would go into the principal's office and she would say, "We're going down for a drug test." So every day before school, I would stop at a convenience store right around the corner from my school, and I would take my little bottle of water in, and I would get it to exactly the right temperature, taking into account the mileage to the school, the outside air temperature. Many factors went into these calculations. And there was always the same guy sitting behind the counter. And so every day I would go into the store. Of course, I would never buy anything because I needed money for things like synthetic urine and drugs. And of course, any day now I was going to assert my power of will and stop using, because that always happens. But I would go into the store and I would nod on my way to the microwave at the clerk, and I would use his microwave every day to get my water to the exact temperature. And on my way out of the store, I would tell him to have a nice day, and he would kind of just nod at me. He would never say anything. And then off I would go to school, and if I needed to use the water, I would use the water and do what I did to pass the drug test. And this went on for months and months and months, with me going in, progressively looking worse and worse, I'm sure, and warming up my water, tying up his microwave, never buying anything, telling him to have a nice way out the door, and him nodding to me, never saying a word. So one particular morning I went in looking particularly shaky, I'm sure, and stuck my water in the microwave, as I always did, got it to precisely the right temperature, taking into account the ambient temperature, the mileage to the school, and the cooling rate, evaporation-wise, in the weather. And on my way out the door, I told him to have a nice day, and I looked at him, and he looked up, and he stood up, and it was like water bursting through a dam. I guess he couldn't take it anymore, and he looked at me, and he said, "Man, what the hell are you doing with the water, man?" And so, you know, being the quick-witted alcoholic that I was, I told him that I was using the water to make green tea, and that it had to be exactly the right temperature. And I appreciated the use of his microwave every day, and in the future I would maybe buy something along the way, some chewing gum or something like that. So I got in my car, and as I was driving to school, it suddenly occurred to me that maybe everybody doesn't stop on the way to work to warm up water for synthetic urine to pass a drug test so they can keep their job, and then maybe my problem was a little worse than I thought. So I checked myself into rehab a couple of weeks after that, and I would like to tell you that I got sober and stayed sober then, but that would be a lie, and I don't lie anymore. But it was another step along the road to recovery to help me realize how powerless I was and how sick I was. So now, a few years down the road, and in recovery, for real this time, I can take the bottle of water and I can safely throw it in the trash. This is Larry. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.